San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on! Get it on!
How's it going, guys? It's Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez today because Dave Meltzer is away without leave. He, I believe, is caught in traffic, so we're going to do without him for a while here today. Opening up the show, and, of course, I am once again the world's most unprepared radio hostess. I am in the parking lot of the Elks Lodge in Milwaukee, Oregon, preparing for a match in approximately 1 hour, and I really have no idea what's going on in the wrestling world today, but we will do what we can until Dave shows up for the big update. And later on in the show, we are going to have Mike TENAY on, so, of course, you can call in and talk to him about NWA TNA and pretty much whatever you want to talk about. And I guess as far as the news goes, the theme pretty much for this week was that it was a very good week for actual pro wrestling in the ring, and there really hasn't been a week in the last, at least if you're following mostly American wrestling, it's been quite a while since there have been a week like this with a lot of great stuff. Raw was actually I think a pretty bad show until the main event, which was Shawn Michaels and Maven and Goldberg versus Flair and Hunter and Orton, which, of course, set up many feuds for the upcoming pay-per-view. It's going to be, of course, Shawn Michaels versus Randy Orton at that show, and Goldberg versus Triple H in their singles match for the title, which, contrary to popular belief, Goldberg will be winning and taking the title so Hunter can take time off and prepare for his wedding to Stephanie McMahon, which takes place on October 25th. And that will be a day, I believe, that will live in infamy forever. But very good match, carried pretty much by Michaels and Flair. And the finish was Hunter Hunter was standing on the outside. Goldberg gave Orton the jackhammer. And the storyline was Hunter was too afraid to get in the ring. And actually a very effective job in getting Goldberg over and getting that match over. So that was very good. Then with TNA, you had the X-Cup tournament. Star of the show there was Juventud Guerrera, who over the last few years has been spotty. Sometimes he'll look awesome. Sometimes he'll be taking a day off. He was not taking a day off on this particular evening. Actually, it was taped over 2 shows. And real good tournament if you're into total nonstop action, because that's exactly what it was. And the tournament was won by Chris Sabin. And then the show ended with a cage match, which I've tried to forget because it was basically a clutter. And the storyline, it was kind of a War Games type deal with just 1 ring and 1 cage. And Jeff Jarrett ended up pinning Chris Daniels. Actually, no. Jeff Jarrett pinned AJ Styles to win that. And we will get into more on SmackDown after this commercial break. This is Wrestling Observer Live right now with Bryan Alvarez.
Welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and I just walked in. We had nice traffic. How you doing, Bryan?
I'm doing better now.
That's good.
It's always the Elks Lodge days where I'm completely unprepared and sitting in a parking lot when you show up late.
Well,
oh, God, what happened today?
Yeah, just the Giants game got out right when I got here, so I was stuck in traffic, as tends to happen. So you're preparing for your 60-minute match?
I am.
Yeah.
Not at this particular moment, but I am doing what I can to prepare.
What did it make you feel like when you heard that you're doing it the same week as Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar?
You know, you had written something, because I actually didn't get any SmackDown spoilers until I watched the show. And I remember you'd written something in a news update about how they were going to have an Iron Man match on the 18th, and I totally blocked it out of my mind. I was like, I'm going to pretend I didn't read that, and I'm going to hope that I'm going to watch the show and this is all imaginary. But no, it's happening. So that's the day before.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? It might be one of the classic matches of our generation.
It could be.
There's not been a...
And Angle and Brock should be pretty good, too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So how was your week?
It's been pretty good.
That's good. I thought that the wrestling this week was kind of awesome. I thought that the last 20 minutes of Raw were great. I can't say the rest of the show was. SmackDown, by and large, was good. TNA, I thought, had their best show that they've ever done.
Yeah, that was actually that was how I opened the show, was that same theme.
Yes, very good week.
Good wrestling. Very
good week for wrestling. By the way, we do have a couple lines open at 1-800-878-PLAY. We're going to get to some phone calls in just a second, so you can hop on right about now. We're going to have Mike TENAY up in about 15 minutes, and we'll talk about the NWA X Division tournament that was just last Wednesday, as well as their 1 cent pay-per-view coming up this coming Wednesday, and their return with a live show on the 17th. And we're also going to have Jeremy Wall, who does the recap on the Observer website. We're gonna talk to him because he is going to do the Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame, which in 5 years, all I can tell him, he will regret it. All right, let's go to Chris in Savannah, Georgia first. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, not much. How you doing?
Doing really good.
Well, so I attended the house show last night in Savannah, and it was an interesting event to say the least. The first thing I was shocked about was the dilapidated Civic Center in Savannah was about 2/3 full on a rainy night in Georgia, and it was a really not a bad turnout, and the crowd was hot all night, but the cage match was really. It was boggling. I mean,
Rob Van Dam and Kane. Now, I have heard the cages they're using is really flimsy.
Oh, it was, I was really in fear for their life. Van Dam, he did the, climb to the top of the cage, teeth going over spot, and he was kind of half laying on it, or he was climbing up, and he ended up, falling down and half laying on it. And they slapped the whole thing together in about 10 minutes, and you could just literally touch the thing with your finger and the whole device would just shake. It was really, really, really unsafe. And kudos to them for able to pull off a halfway decent match. Although it was pretty boring. It wasn't like they took the night off. It was just really long and drawn out. And I guess they didn't want to draw the intermission out too long and have to put up the cage for a half an hour, but it was really unsafe.
What was your thoughts of Flair and Chris Jericho?
Surprisingly, like John had put in his report, the Jericho playing the babyface character really sucked a lot of heat out of him, and Flair did his best to heal up the Savannah Southern crowd, talking about how he wrestled in a second-rate town like this. But anything Flair did, he was yelling obscenities to the crowd, and he had them eating out of the palm of their hand. But as far as how the match was, it was real slow, old school, work the holds, but it wasn't in a boring way. It's Flair and Jericho, so it was a really good match.
Did Jericho really work babyface, or was it just Flair?
Oh, he was complete and total white meat babyface.
Huh, how about that?
Yeah. They've been doing that this week.
It was complete babyface. It was interesting because the crowd really didn't know what to do. It was like, are we going to buy this guy, or is he going to turn on us in 3 minutes and throw a punchline at us? We did, the typical insult the Southern crowd type line. So it was kind of like they were waiting for it to happen, and when it didn't, it just kind of,
we should have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, and Flair just blew the roof off the building, though. It was incredible, the ovation he got. But the Cade and Jindrak match was horrendous.
Well, they were working with Mark Henry and Rodney Mack?
It was atrocious, yeah.
Well,
it was beyond description atrocious.
Let's see now. Now, Cade, Bryan and I used to watch him on OVW, and neither of us ever thought he was ready to be brought up. Jindrak would probably be right about at the bottom of the list, with the exception of maybe Mark Henry. So you have the OVW opening match.
Yep.
Certainly not ready for Savannah. Savannah WWE.
Which is really sad because people always hear us raving about Ohio Valley, and it's like, okay, here's your Ohio Valley match. It's Mark Henry, Jindrak, Cade, and
yeah, but that's the bad Ohio Valley match.
I know, but nobody knows. They just hear Ohio Valley, and it's like, oh, this is your Ohio Valley. You guys are idiots. Yeah,
well, just wait until they bring up Travis Bane. Then we'll really be idiots because he's actually worse than any above.
Who do you fault in that situation? Do you fault Danny Davis or do you fault Vince McMahon?
I don't fault Danny Davis, and I don't really even. It's hard to say who is the guy who makes the call to call guys up, and who made
the call to call up Maurice?
That I don't know. That one surprised me. I think it's the writing team. The writing team, sees those 5x7 and 8x10 photos of these guys and kind of, he's 6'5" and has a good build. He's Mark Henry. We remember him 3 years ago. And also, with Mark Henry, also they're paying him so much money that there's a time limit where they're going to let him be at OVW, and then they're going to have to bring him up just because they have to justify the cost of $250,000 a year contract.
Yes, totally.
So.
And the other interesting thing that surprised me, considering the somewhat amount of effort they put into building him of late, is the fact that Maven got less of a reaction than Cade and Jindrak. I mean, the place was absolutely, completely, you could hear a pin drop when Maven came out. And that's not to say that he didn't, try to elicit a response. He really attempted to put his Maven charisma on, but oh boy, did they not.
I'm a little surprised, but you also got to realize that he's really only had about two, and really not even 2 weeks. I would say 1 week of a legitimate TV push, because the week before he just did a job for Randy Orton. And then this last, it was just Monday's TV where they kind of started to, tell you, hey, you actually should pay attention to this guy that we've been burying for the last, year or so.
Yeah, it was just surprising to me. I mean, in comparison to the OVW guys, I mean, perhaps that's because they really haven't had too much of an opportunity to really be embarrassed and buried in front of people's eyes, whereas I guess Maven's really gotten the shaft on quite a few occasions and therefore is maybe more devalued than the two of them.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But I don't know why he'd be more devalued, because the guys that are on Heat, they're kind of devalued just by being on Heat.
Yeah, but nobody watches Heat.
Okay, well then there you go.
They watch you being devalued on Raw. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I would bet that the majority of fans that go to these house shows don't watch Heat. So you're right. That's a good point. Anything else? Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to sneak in one more. Is your thoughts on this extensive and lengthy Court Bauer interview on MLW.com? And one thing I found kind of interesting is he's quite ready to take talent from CZW and Ring of Honor and act like he's presenting these guys anew to the public. But I noticed he was taking some pretty vicious pot shots at Ring of Honor and, CZW, and I guess the Philadelphia promotions in general, perhaps in their marketing scheme and, such. And I was wondering what your thoughts, both you and Bryan, on that subject.
I didn't really read the interview that closely. I mean, I know the interview you're talking about. I think maybe because he, has television on on Sunshine Network, which seems to have some pretty good visibility, and has drawn decent crowds. Then again, there were times CZW, when they first started going to the ECW arena, had some good crowds early.
Yeah, they hit 1,300, 1,500 for KZF3, I think, and
some number like that. Yeah, so I mean, it's as good as it's as good as MLW is doing.
Hours drawn.
Yeah, I mean, but I'll tell you what though, I was really impressed, with the last, especially the Fort Lauderdale show where they had about 1,500 people. I was impressed in this day and age to do 1,500 people when you're not the WWE for a house show is pretty impressive. So Chris, we got to go ahead to a break now, okay?
All right, thanks guys for taking my call.
Okay, you're very welcome. Want to remind everyone you can join in at 1-800-878-PLAY. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you're looking for the latest pro wrestling news, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We have daily news updates, columns, and all TV reports all through the week, as well as information on how to get both the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which I do every week, and Figure 4 Weekly, which Bryan does every week, which are probably the two leading publications as far as inside information on pro wrestling anywhere. And you got anything special coming up in this week's issue?
That's a good question. My usual Sunday night answer, I have no idea what my cover story is.
Okay, well, I do.
What's the latest part?
Yeah, I may have a double issue this week.
Again?
Yeah, I don't want to, but I've already got 18 pages done, and it's like I still got to write about Monday, I still got to write about Tuesday. And
you can send me a few of those pages if you want to.
Man, it's almost unavoidable. I got the latest part of the history of wrestling, and this is really it's a good one. I mean, it's like when I was going through, this is 1991 era, and I mean, there's so many big stories in 1991 between Ric Flair leaving WCW, the Rare Hulk Hogan feud, the Zahorian trial, the post-Zahorian trial, which is actually more important than the Zahorian trial itself in a lot of ways, the Persian Gulf War, battle over Sid Vicious, who was going to be the next big thing in wrestling. Oh, my God. Those companies were warring over that man. They were offering him money, WrestleMania main events, world titles, because he was going to be the next big thing. It's unbelievable reading back on some of the stuff. And some of the quotes from some people will floor you. By many people, I'm just reading this stuff. Sometimes, who was it? Jeremy Wall, who's actually going to be on the show later today, who does the recaps on our site. He does a newsletter called Touch of Evil. And, maybe in the last issue or in one recent issue, he was kind of reviewing, like, the off-the-record interviews that guys have done, like, from, like, a couple of years back. And some of the stuff they say, when you look back at it, really makes them look stupid. And, well...
it beats it all.
Well, that stuff happens when you look back 10 years, let me tell you. Wow, but that was... how old... Let's see, so Bryan, you would have been, what, about 15 then?
91?
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a learning year, let me tell you, as far as writing and everything. I probably learned more that year than any year about, not so much wrestling, but about being stupid. Because I saw a lot of stuff.
Over the last few years?
I don't know. The last few years, it's been stupid about wrestling booking. This had nothing to do with wrestling booking. This is stupid about real life. And there was a lot of that then. Speaking of which, did you see Confidential last night?
Actually, I saw about 5 minutes of it. I forgot it was on until it was almost over.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, if you only saw like the first 10 minutes, then you saw the whole show because, it was such a horrible show after 10 minutes, but first 10 minutes with Billy Graham were really good.
I saw pretty much the Montreal stuff.
I know. What are you going to do? We'll be watching that one forever. What can I say?
Watch it, though. The funnier it gets to watch Earl Hebner run away.
And Bret Hart spit and try to break the monitors. You know what's sad, though, whenever I watch the Montreal footage? When you watch, I guess, it's something like I should sit and watch that match over again at some point if I could find where I have my tape of it. The real match as opposed to, like, the edited versions.
Yeah.
But, it's real obvious, Hunter and Jerry Briscoe out there and just their facials and everything. We already know, in hindsight, of course, we know that they knew. But, when you watch it, it's, like, so obvious that they knew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hunter especially, Hunter was clearly there to be, like, the bodyguard in case, like, the whole Hart Foundation, like, killed Sean. You could see it in his face, and he knew it, and he wasn't very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And then you had, like, and Brett's in there, in his last match, and it's, there's Owen and there's Davey, and it's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, we talk about this match forever, and then there are these two guys, and they're dead. It's quite weird.
The thing about Owen, too, speaking of good wrestling, I was watching TNA, and Teddy Hart was on there, and Mike Tenay was comparing him to a young Owen Hart, and maybe I shouldn't say this on idea that Mike Tenay is going to be on, but I watched some young Owen Hart this week, a Calgary tape, and he was so good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen a guy first year in the business, including Kurt Angle. For first year in the business. Kurt Angle's second year in the business, yeah, but Owen Hart as a rookie, unbelievably good.
Oh, yeah, he was so awesome.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to go back to Savannah, Georgia, and Jonathan. Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
I sent in the house show report last night to you, so I was there.
Thank you very much, by the way.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I guess I had a couple questions, but first I guess I can give you another highlight that Chris forgot to let you guys in on about Flair. I think I wrote in the thing about Flair working bare ass for about 2
He did it the night before too. That's just, I guess that's he's done that for 30 years. So I guess he's doing it again.
I didn't know what to think.
God, could you imagine when Ric Flair was 26, 27 years old to think that 27 years later he's going to still be doing that spot?
I don't know.
Actually, I would have thinking about it, knowing Ric Flair, I'm not surprised. Oh God, I know.
And the other pretty amusing thing was Jackie Gata almost pulling like a JT Smith but it was through the middle ropes this time when she was trying to leave the ring when Hurricane and Trish entered. She got caught up in the rest.
She got caught trying to climb into the ring or out of the ring?
Trying to leave the ring. She got caught.
Something is going to happen with Jackie Gata in one of these mixed tags one of these nights.
It was so bad because she has to know, and it makes it even worse.
Okay,
she's always got to be thinking about it.
That makes it
the ropes.
That makes it sure. Okay, Bryan, you know, I know, and she knows, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if we know, they should know that she should be a manager. and not in the ring wrestling every night or many nights as she's been doing.
Yeah.
Oh well, what are you going to do? She's going to be on TV. She's going to be wrestling on TV in a week or two. I can just see it coming.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe on Heat though, because Rico, that sure saved Rico's career. That gimmick, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, all that work.
Yeah, like memorizing that, and then he gets bombs on one show, and then they forget about it.
Yeah.
But the questions that I have for you were, one is actually this isn't really much of an important question, but I'll ask it anyway. What happened to Kane being under house arrest and the Burns from being dumped into a
the new thing about WWE is that we are not supposed to question those things anymore.
That's what I already knew. Yeah, I figured that's the.
So if you're wanting like them to make sense out of their angles, they're not even going to bother. So if you want to make sense, you want to watch angles that make sense, then get OVW or buy old Mid-South Wrestling tapes.
And that entrance was so cool because it was something so different. The cops and the shackles.
Oh, I know. It made him out to be like a really cool monster, and then I don't know why
just coming out without it. And it's like, well, there you go.
And I have no idea why they dropped it. I mean, I can't come up with a good reason at all. But they did.
Another question I have for you: what is the real story behind what Vince said on a house show with Rhino and Tajiri about?
Vince came out and
he thought it was too boring, and
you're sneaking up my ring. Get out of the ring and let's get the divas and have some excitement. And
but aren't they the guys who keep saying work a slower style match? And
it's even worse. It's even worse than that. They actually told them from their match the night before in Boston, grab a hold and work a hold more and don't be doing that much. And Rhino also kind of knew what's the word I'm looking for? He kind of knew what was going to happen because it's Nassau. And, Nassau, everyone knows, is one of the toughest crowds they play. Nassau, I think Nassau and Pittsburgh kind of have the reps as being the hardest crowd. So he knew that the slow stuff was going to die. And also, the match before, which was APA against Haas and Benjamin, the crowd hated that match. So they were already in a bad mood. And so Rhino and Tajiri did the match they were told, and that's, what can I say?
What is the deal with them doing the APA versus Haas and Benjamin? Because I enjoyed watching Haas and Benjamin on SmackDown prior to this feud with APA, and just having them have to wrestle APA just destroys any momentum they had.
Yeah, they seem really good. Brian, I was going to ask you. Now that we've seen that program, were Haas and Benjamin really not that good, or APA that bad? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a little. I think it would be a little of both.
That's what I was going to say. I thought it was going to be a little of both. I think
they both are really green, and they're working with such great guys for so long that I think that it kind of snowed us a little bit. Not that they're bad or anything.
Yeah, because when they worked with Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri, they were having great matches.
Yeah, but it's Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri.
Yeah, well,
and they were working with good guys for so long. I'm sure they got a lot better. But I don't think they didn't become Kurt Angle.
Yeah, well, and the APA though. The APA's. Ron Simmons is an old guy now, and Bradshaw. Bradshaw's never been good. So what are you going to do? He's got a great personality, and he's got good size and good fire and good interviewability. He's got all those tools, and he's big. All those reasons why he should get pushed, and there's a reason why they never push Bradshaw that far, and that is because every time they try, his weakness is he's just not a good worker.
Yeah.
And I don't think at his age, I don't think he ever will be.
It's too late.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
My last question, are they? I know there's probably no plans for this, but are they planning on doing anything with Eddie and a world title push on SmackDown?
Not that I am aware of, but they should.
Okay. Because I think I read something about although it doesn't really, I know it's subject to change, about an upcoming house show is they've got Cena and Angle listed sometime in October. Or...
The house show lineups mean nothing. But... Yeah, well, Cena and Angle, but Angle's not going to be champions come then, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
That was it. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, very welcome. We got Mike TENAY on the line. Michael, how are you?
I just joined that last call in progress, and I heard something about the Ric Flair exposed butt spot. I was curious, was the caller really referring to something that happened in the ring, in the hotel, or on an airplane? Three. All three in one night, so it was the hat trick for Rick. That's shocking. I've never seen or heard anything about that before.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh my God, they're playing the music. We can't even get to start talking.
God, it's been nice joining you guys. Don't miss the 1 cent pay-per-view this Wednesday.
Okay, we'll be back with Mike TENAY right after this. We'll talk about last Wednesday's pay-per-view because it was really awesome if you missed it. In fact, there's a couple of replays still going. And the 1 cent pay-per-view coming up this Wednesday, NWA TNA. And take all your calls. You can join us, by the way, at 1-800-878-PLAY to talk about any aspect of pro wrestling. Right after this, you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, who's somewhere in front of the Elks Lodge in Milwaukee, Oregon, and Mike TENAY, who is, presuming somewhere in Las Vegas. I know he's in Las Vegas because we called him. Mike.
Hello, Dave and Bryan.
Hey, I gotta say something. Wednesday's show to me was the best TNA show that I've seen since the thing started well over a year ago, and you and Don West did an awesome job. And a lot of people don't know this if they watch the show, but you did that thing in studio. You were not even there live, and to create that much excitement while you're watching something, on a monitor as opposed to actually being in the ring, that was pretty impressive.
Well, thank you guys very much. I think as far as I was concerned, it was certainly one of my favorite shows in the year plus that we've been doing the pay-per-views. And yeah, you're right. All of the undercard matches, I guess you would say, it's kind of hard to say, other than the main event, but certainly all of the Super X tournament matches as well as the opening match, we voiced over in studio on, what was it, a week ago Friday. And the final match, the Bloody Wednesday War Games match, that actually, because of both Russo and Callis joining us at the broadcast table, it was decided that we would voice that over live. And I think it's a big credit to somebody like Don West, who really, it was just, to my knowledge, the second time that he's done anything like that. I mean, for years with WCW, I announced an awful lot of the matches in studio, the WCW Saturday night shows, the international TV, the syndicated TV shows. Those were all voiced over in studio, so I guess maybe I have a little bit more experience, but for Don, I think that was just the second time, and dating back to well over a year ago, the last time that he did it, and it's almost one of those things where you try not to think too much of the match that you've already seen. And that's so difficult to do, but I think it almost lends itself to a better broadcast for the announcers if you can go in and not knowing exactly the sequence of all the moves coming up. Maybe a little bit more surprise factor, and I think that probably shows as well in the broadcast. But I would just have to say that big props to Don West on that.
Yeah.
You can you kind of almost tell a story better when you can do that? Because you kind of know what's going to happen, so you can sort of almost build it up for the guys as you're calling it?
I think in terms of the way momentum shifts in a match is absolutely. That's the one thing. I mean, you can talk to wrestlers prior to the match and get a certain idea of where they're going with a match. And many times I try and do that. But I think in terms of momentum and knowing when there's a good time to get maybe a longer story in, or time to lay out and let the action speak for itself, I think you're probably in a better situation to do that than you are in a live match where you really have no idea, of the next sequence or series of moves and if they're going to slow it down or speed it up.
You know what? One thing that tournament, and I guess the tournament, but a lot of things is that show told me something. If you're an independent wrestler and you want to get noticed, the TNA thing, that is a good place to get noticed, because I want to tell you something. I was getting calls from independent promoters everywhere trying to get a hold of Teddy Hart and Juventud Guerrera, Thursday and Friday. And I mean, and here's something. I mean, everyone in wrestling knows Juventud Guerrera, and everyone in wrestling has seen Juventud Guerrera a million times. But out of sight, out of mind. He's been wrestling for AAA in Mexico, which hardly anyone watches, and even if they do, that would they would try for exactly. And Teddy Hart, no one's really seen him in this country very much. No one, unless you've gotten tapes of Mat Rats or something, or Stampede Wrestling. So, but it really did something, I think, for both of their careers.
Well, I think with Juvi, it isn't just a case of just the out of sight, out of mind. It was also the negative connotation that the name Juventud Guerrera had over the course of the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
So I think Juventud, for whatever reason, realizing that this really was your last chance, Juvi, and I'm sure he's been told that on more than one occasion. but for him to step up to the plate and to show up as straight as he was for both nights of that tournament, and the performance that he put on, certainly in all three of the matches, really was a great credit. I think Teddy Hart was very impressive as well. I think the editing process, well, physically or mentally, is that what you're saying?
I said physically. I did not say mentally, and I will not say mentally.
The editing process helped him slightly.
Yeah.
I still think people would certainly have been impressed.
Oh, but the second match. I mean, I know the first match, when he was, it helped him, but the second match was just awesome.
Absolutely, he was on his own on that one. My knowledge there was, I don't think much, if anything, taken out of that second match, and just really, I think, one spot taken out of the first one.
Yeah, it's too bad that he didn't realize that that even though it was 2 different weeks of him wrestling, that it was all airing on the same night, and he wore different outfits for both matches.
Right. Well, I guess that's also the inexperience showing. Guys, to me, when I think back and think of that Super X tournament, the key, I think, to the success of it was twofold. And no question, the in-ring talent gets the lion's share of the credit. Hoovy, Chris Sabin, Frankie Kazarian, Michael Shane, Jerry Lynn, we mentioned Teddy Hart, Nosawa. I think I'm missing one guy, Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm. But I also think that in addition to how great those guys were, and let's give them the majority of the credit, but at the same time, let's point out the no-nonsense aspect when it came to booking that tournament.
Absolutely. It's because I think that really, it made it so refreshing.
Absolutely. It was a strong emphasis on the clean finishes, and I think that was a major part of the rave reviews that we received. And guys, isn't it amazing that none of the talent was not only hurt in the least by the clean finishes? If anything, I think the opposite is exactly true. You've got X Division champ Michael Shane, in losing, he now ends up with a minimum of 3 very strong challengers in Hoovy, Kazarian, and Sabin.
Yeah, absolutely. And even potentially Teddy Hart if you would decide to bring him back.
Absolutely. And as far as in demand goes, I just looked on the website. There are replays of that show that will be airing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at various times. I would just say check out nwatna.com to get the exact times that they're airing. But, well, like Dave said, and if you trust his judgment, in his mind...
Even if you don't trust my judgment, trust it this time. No, I'm serious. If you did not see the show, I mean, this is one of the better pay-per-views you'll see for $10. I mean, I would even go, this is the best pay-per-view you'll ever see for $10 that I can come up with. I mean, there have been better $30 pay-per-views, and not a lot of them, but there have been, and better, WrestleManias, and the Houston one. But I mean, if you're talking about, the first hour and 25 minutes would stack up with any show that I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. People are mentioning that show. This is from something that Dave had mentioned to me. People are talking about that show in the same breath as When Worlds Collide.
Well, it wasn't as good.
Which, is arguably maybe, one of the top 2 or 3 pay-per-views of all time, and some people say the best. So
yeah.
But again, like you say, all things being equal, dollar for dollar, I think it's great to hear that people are considering it that strongly.
Okay, now
Is that tape before or after the live pay-per-views those 2 weeks? I was just surprised with how into it the crowd was through the whole thing.
Okay, it was a combination of both, but the first series of the early matches were taped before the pay-per-view the week before, and then the 2 semifinal matches were taped before the last pay-per-view, and then the final match was taped after the live pay-per-view, if you've got that straight.
Okay, and that's why probably for the final, it took a while for the crowd to get going, because the crowd had probably been there for, 3 hours? 3 hours plus by the time they started. And, you really got to give kudos to Sabin and Juventud Guerrera, because, I mean, they pulled out a near match of the year on a crowd that really was tired and then wasn't going to be that easy as compared to some of the early matches.
Yeah, it really does say a lot for the talent in ring, and also for the crowd that was in attendance, recognizing that fact. But yeah, it really all came together, and I remember saying to you that I had read some of the early reviews of people that had put some spoilers up and the like, and in reading them, I just didn't think that enough emphasis was given to that Super X tournament in terms of the quality of the matches, and I think it really showed once we put it together in a nice, one-night package.
Now, this Wednesday, there's actually two different shows. So I want to make this clear. For those of you who have direct TV, you're actually going to be getting a 2-hour tape of the company's first home video, which is, I guess, the history of their championships, I believe, is what it's mainly going to be. And it's going to be a $9.95 price, not a regular, not the penny show. Now, on In Demand, there's a 1-cent show, which is going to be a tape of some of the best matches of the first year plus of NWA TNA. And I don't know, is there any more you want to add about those two shows?
Well, sure. The DirecTV show is a preview of the upcoming DVD release that we're going to have, which is the best of TNA's World's Title matches, and that is the $9.95 regular price. In terms of the cable TV viewers, In Demand is offering 1-cent pay-per-view all over the United States as well as in Canada on Express View and Viewer's Choice. And to me, when I think about it, it really is the ultimate win-win situation for both the wrestling fan and the NWA TNA promotion. I mean, the fan has the chance to sample the product for 1 cent. You take a look at many of the matches and also many of the wrestlers that you've been hearing about or reading about for the past year. And obviously for us, it's our opportunity to gain the exposure to our show, that mass exposure that we've been hoping for. And I think to all the wrestling fans out there who have been reacting negatively to WWE TV shows, it's an invitation.
Even if you like, because
it's try that alternative. It's judge for yourself. If NWA TNA is your type, if it's your style of TV wrestling.
Yeah. Let's go and get to one phone call before we have to take a break. We're going to go to Tom in Atlanta. Tom, what's going on?
Hi. Quick question with regards to I read your newsletter and these stockholder meetings that the WWE has. Whenever I read that, when it's time for questions of the stockholders, and they always they ask questions that are critical of the direction of the WWE, they always seem to get dismissed and cut off.
That really only happened, I would say, once, which would have been not the last one, but the one before, where that definitely happened. The one before, usually.
Or the questions aren't very probative, or in terms of. What's your direction, and why are?
Well, I think most of those people really don't ask questions about the direction of storylines.
I mean, are these like million? I mean, who are these stockholders? Are they millionaires invested?
I think they're more financial analysts that are the people that actual stockholders are not allowed to ask questions at those things, and reporters are not allowed to ask questions. It's only the financial analysts that are allowed to ask questions.
Not reporters. This is last one because they asked them the time before.
What?
Reporters were asking questions the time before. That's what got the trouble started. So
no, those financial analysts no-go because I know that I'm not allowed to ask any questions on those things.
Really? When did that happen?
Oh, from the very start. It's always been only the financial analysts because when you mention your firm, it's like everyone from Goldman Sachs and from all the financial firms are the people that are asking the questions. You don't hear like someone from the Las Vegas Sun or something.
And very quickly, Roddy Piper is showing up on the next NWA show?
17th, yes.
Excellent. All right, take care.
Okay, very welcome. We'll be back with more right after this with Mike TENAY. You'll listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're joined by Mike TENAY, announcer of NWA TNA, which has a 1-penny pay-per-view for those of you with cable on In Demand, and the regular $9.95 best of world title matches for those of you who have direct TV. It's coming Wednesday night, and if you haven't, as we mentioned before, you can still catch the replay of the Ultimate X tournament, which was really good. Some of the best wrestling you'll see all year. Juventud Guerrera and Chris Sabin got probably one of the 5 best matches in the United States this year. Speaking of which, there's actually been a lot of really, I think that this 4-week period is going to have some of the most incredible wrestling of the year, and a lot of it's WWE as well, because I think the Kurt Angle Undertaker match and then Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar 1-hour match coming up a week from Tuesday, which will air a week from Thursday on SmackDown. So just a lot of good wrestling, and guys, I've seen a lot of good wrestling in Japan as well of late. So I don't know, it's pretty depressing there for a while.
I'm very impressed with that Undertaker match.
I thought, you know what? I was thinking about this on the ride up here when I was stuck in traffic and I had to start thinking about wrestling. And I think that Undertaker, it's kind of sad because I know that Undertaker is probably not going to keep this character much longer. But I'm finally starting to like, like, the Undertaker character, it kind of reminds me of Stan Hansen about 10 years ago in Japan, in that it's like he's been the tough guy for so long that when he starts to sell vulnerability and he's old, and you kind of have that feeling for him, like,
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
okay, welcome to the second hour of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We are joined by Mike TENAY, announcer of NWA TNA, and 40 years as a wrestling fan, so you can ask him questions on wrestling in pretty much any time from about 1960 on. If you want to ask about 1920s, we're just going to have to guess. So, like everybody else. We got a full bank of phone calls. Mike, I want to ask you, can you, off the top of your head, come up with a terrible 60-minute match that you've seen? Like one that... Were you at the Gene Kiniski-Bobo Brazil match?
No, that would have been L.A. in...
That was 68.
I was going to say 68 or 69. I was not at that match, but I was at the Kurt Hennig, Nick Bockwinkel 60-minute match at the Showboat.
Well, that was a great match.
That was a tremendous match that aired on ESPN. Boy, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head a bad 60-minute match that I remember.
Because I had always heard the Kiniski-Bobo match wasn't good, and I can believe it with Bobo Brazil.
I could certainly imagine that as well.
Yeah.
My guess would be that it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But, no, I wasn't there live for that. But I think it's a very interesting experiment on the part of the WWE. I'm not convinced that it's the right way to go. It's just that for the past few years, the mentality has been to totally go in the opposite direction of that. So I don't know if all of a sudden in one night or in a couple of weeks you can re-educate the audience, especially when it comes to a singles match. If you think about it, some of the longer matches that we've seen on TV from the WWE in the past year or two, I think have all been tag team matches, probably going in that 25 to 28-minute range.
Yeah, when Paul Heyman was writing SmackDown, they did a lot of... But, I mean, they did Undertaker and Kurt Angle, which was about 20 minutes on Thursday.
Right.
And
which I have seen and enjoyed that very much. And also to confirm what you had mentioned, I think that Brock Lesnar is really coming into his own with that character.
Oh, yeah, that was the best interviews, I think, that I've seen him as far as being a heel.
Absolutely, no question about that, and the alliance with Vince, and at the same time using that alliance to sort of bring out that monster side of him rather than getting shoved into the background, which I think would happen with so many people when they're aligned with Vince McMahon.
Yeah. We're going to go take a break right now, and then we're going to come back and taking phone calls. All our lines are lit up right now, so you're going to have to wait for someone to hang up, but if you want to join in, you can call 1-800-878-PLAY when we get rid of a call, when we're done. We will be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Of course, we're here with Mike TENAY, the lead announcer for NWA TNA, and one of the smartest people that you'll ever meet on professional wrestling anywhere, right up there at the top of any list. Almost anyone in wrestling knows him would say that, and I think that I need to send some people in wrestling. Someone had a birthday recently in wrestling, and he needs some focus factor, but that's another story. Let's see.
Hey, Dave, I had a question about the 60-minute match that we were just talking about.
Yes.
And the reason this popped in my mind was thinking back to the Shawn Michaels-Bret Hart match, which was in Anaheim. Do you know what city that match is going to be, the 60-minute match will be in? I know it's
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Well, I guess just off the top of my head, my initial inclination would be that Raleigh, North Carolina would be a better city to do that match in.
Than the Nassau Coliseum.
Or the Arrowhead Pond.
The Arrowhead Pond was a terrible building to do that match.
Because let's face it, in addition to the in-ring aspect of that match, I think a lot of the match is going to be judged by the dramatic aspects, and so much of that is the crowd involvement. And I think that while obviously a WWE crowd in Raleigh, North Carolina wouldn't be the same as an old-fashioned NWA or WCW crowd in the Carolinas, I think that just judging by that, the match has a better chance than if they had it at the Staples Center or the Arrowhead Pond.
You know what? Here's an interesting thing that I don't know if it's been talked about is how much confidence Vince McMahon will have or allow to have in that in 1 hour, will he try to do run-ins in every commercial break? Or will he let them go and do the match and save if there are going to be any runs till the last, minute or two? Because, if they go in there and they do, 7 run-in finishes for 7 falls in an hour, I don't know that it'll be that great of a match.
Well, obviously, the multiple run-ins would take away from the match, but then think of the disappointment factor if you've been watching the match for 58 minutes and you've bought into the concept for 58 minutes, and you get a screw job finish in minute 59 or 60, I think that may be an even bigger negative.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much they can keep their hands off, because again, you have worked with some of the most over-creative bookers in wrestling, and it's really hard for them to leave well enough alone, if that's the way of saying it, in that they have to put their fingerprints on things, even when at times you don't need to put any fingerprints on it when it's just an easy one.
And at times, I think especially in this day and age, I just think that people have seen so much of the crap that when it comes to the way, for example, and I'm going to come back to this, the way that we booked that Super X tournament in a more basic fashion with the clean finishes, and also I think what I tried to bring out in the commentary was more of an athletic-based, more of a sports-based type commentary in those matches, and I think people are ready for that with their wrestling these days, just because they've seen the other done to death.
Yeah. One thing, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but it was the pay-per-view that you did in November, I guess it was November of 99 with WCW, and it was the World Title Tournament. It was in Toronto, and it was Bret Hart and Chris Benoit. And, on paper, that's a match to me. Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Toronto, Canada, you just leave alone and you have them do the match, and Bret Hart just wins since that was the call. And you did that, I think it was a Hall and Nash run-in, but I don't remember. I just remember Kevin Nash did a run-in, and for no reason. And then it was it ruined the whole match, quite frankly, because the guys never got it back. And they were doing that backstage stuff in the middle of the match. And I was thinking, that's like the perfect thing. It's like, there's some times you've got to curb your creativity, because 2 guys having a great match don't need help. If it's 2 guys that can't have a great match, that's what I used to like about Antonio Pena. And you and I, we used to go to the matches where we would see these 2 guys that we knew could not have a good match. And they were in a position where they had to do a 3-fall long match. And he would do run-ins, and he would do gimmicks and all this, and he would make it a really entertaining match. But if he had 2 guys who didn't need it, he wasn't running people in every couple minutes.
Well, isn't that the key to being a successful booker or a great booker? It's having the eye to know when you back off. And, Hart and Benoit, I think, to the Kansas City match, which didn't have that. It didn't have the interference.
Yeah.
And was a pretty strong match. But you're right, at the same time, Pena, he would know when he had those guys that were out there that were limited, and if he had to run people in, he ran them in.
He knew 10 years ago.
Yep.
Or 8 years ago. I don't know about today.
Oh, boy, I tell you what, watching that TV on a regular basis, you can't even really think much about the booking when it comes to AAA just because you're pretty much amazed at what you're seeing in the ring being so bad.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we have a caller, Jeff, I think, who wants to talk about Lucha Libre. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I read in the Observer this week about that Lucha show in Oregon that drew 900 fans.
Yeah, with La Parca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up in San Jose. I know you and I remember those AAA shows 10 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, 10 years ago now.
Yeah. So my question for both of you is, if I ran some Lucha shows in the Bay Area, all right, without television, how well do you think they would draw?
What do you mean without television? Without television advertising or without your own TV?
Without my own TV.
Well, I guess I'll take this one first. I think that if you're headed in any direction these days, done properly and with advertising on the local cable affiliates, I think it would stand a chance.
But you've got it. I think that all the advertising should be geared to the Spanish language stations, Spanish language newspapers.
Oh, absolutely. The radio.
Spanish radio, yeah. You've got it.
The Galavision TV.
Yeah, and advertise on the local Galavision. I don't know, 500, 700. I think that they've drawn over 500 at San Jose Civic Auditorium a couple of times when they brought in some big names. I think I haven't been to shows because they always run them Saturday. They run them Sunday right now at 5 o'clock. So
Jeff, I think maybe one of the detriments might be in trying to book in accordance with the way the TV is going because they're 3 months late. But I think I would almost do it where I would just book it separate from the TV and use the TV as an advertising medium.
Yeah, and just, and try to use, like a Parker or Santo or Pero Aguayo Jr., people that would be known to, Hispanics living in California.
I think we'll get an interesting response to the show that Gary Jester is running in Atlanta, Georgia, coming up at the end of this month.
That'll be interesting.
That's sort of, at least in my mind, it's almost like a test case to find out how that kind of a situation would draw, because it's basically what we just talked about. That's the process that Gary Jester is going through in promoting that show in Atlanta. So we'll find out if that one's a success or not.
Yeah, I'm worried about that one. I just think the building's too big. What's that? How big is that building? 13,000, 15,000 seats?
Yes, I think too big, which I've talked to Gary about. But
yeah,
it's the perfect opportunity for them to go into that new building, and they're getting a great deal on the building. So
yeah,
they're going to give it a shot. But yeah, I think you could probably get by on using a 5,000-seat building just as effectively.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, very welcome. Let's go to Jeff in Prospect, Connecticut. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, guys. My first question's for Mike. When's Sting going to be in TNA again?
Don't have an exact date, Jeff. I know it's something that the company was looking into within the past month or so, but nothing definite yet. I did see where they're going to be showing the Sting and Jeff Jarrett tag match against AJ Styles and Six as part of the 1 cent pay-per-view there's this Wednesday. But as far as a new match in the future, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get that one. Is it true that Vince is thinking about doing pushing himself and Undertaker as one of the top feuds in SmackDown?
Yes. That's the Survivor Series main event.
Is he crazy?
Unless he changes his mind. Is he crazy? Is he crazy? I don't know if he surrounds himself with the wrong kind of people, but I wouldn't even say, I don't know. Crazy. That's an interesting question. He's driven, which doesn't make you crazy. He, at times, and even today, from people who work with him, he's at times brilliant, and at times he makes decisions that people are perplexed by.
Is he just going between what he did at the house show and what his booking decisions lately? Is he just out of his mind? Is he just totally lost any semblance to pro wrestling?
Has he lost focus maybe of what the audience wants might be a better way to put it. I mean, it's hard to say, judging by the way that some weeks the ratings spike up there, but I I just get the impression that that would be my response to it, that they're going to present a product that they now have in their mind is wrestling, whether the masses, care to support that or not.
The one thing, that I really, strongly disagree with, and almost everyone seems to, is the idea that we don't have to explain it anymore, that we can just do whatever we want and there doesn't need to be an explanation. That one's a little too much for me, because I just think that when I've seen promotions that have had that attitude in the past, in almost every case they've gone out of business. And granted, these guys aren't going out of business anytime in the next 10 years because they have so much money. But I still, even with that money, I wouldn't want to copy the formula that's put other companies out of business.
The old poetic license card.
Yeah.
I think now with all that's been going on with WWE and their lousy product, I think if like TNA were to get a national deal and not have $10 pay-per-views every week, I think they could really take over.
Take over is a funny word, but as far as be a player, if they had weekly TV on a good station, I think the product's strong enough now for sure.
All right, is Triple H going to drop the belt to Goldberg?
Yeah, pretty much. I think they backed themselves in the corner on that one.
Did they guarantee it?
Pretty much. I tell you what, we got to figure out what the odds are going to be on thegreek.com for that one.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right, we will be back with more with Mike TENAY right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome to Wrestling Observer Live. Welcome back. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez not here, but I want to talk about his publication, Figure 4 Weekly, in just a second. And, of course, our guest tonight, Mike TENAY, and we're also going to be joined by Jeremy Wall later in the show, talking about Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame. But if you're interested in subscribing to either Wrestling Observer newsletter that I put out every week or Figure 4 Weekly that Bryan puts out every week, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's information on both publications. And this coming week's issue, the one actually not tomorrow's issue, but a week from tomorrow, of the Observer is going to be, I say it's like once a month, it's going to be one of the biggest of the year, but it seems to be like once a month issues like that. We've got the latest in the history of wrestling. I don't even know what part it is right now, but it's going to be covering 1991, and what an educational year that is, and it will bring back many memories for Mike TENAY. Boy, I tell you what, when I was done with 1991, I just remember 1992, and that's really going to bring back a lot of memories, won't it?
Boy, I tell you what, the issues that you've done in the past 6-8 months, whatever it's been, relating to the history, I think are among the best issues that you've really ever done, and it's almost as if you were just to take all those issues and put them together, you would have a hell of a book on the history of professional wrestling, or at least as it pertains
the modern history from 63 on. I'm gonna do that. It's going to be a book.
As much time and effort as you put into that, I think it's a natural.
I think I'm going to try to make that one into a book when all is said and done. I'll tell you what, like 1992, when I started thinking about Barry Orton in 1992 in the Wrestling Insiders radio show.
Wow.
Think about that, but that was quite a learning experience, wasn't it?
Boy, you're not kidding, and to think about the direction that the business went in after that one appearance and things that sort of evolved after that one radio show.
I know. And it's amazing, because last night I was watching Superstar Billy Graham on Confidential.
I watched that as well, and absolutely, of course, what do you think the one thing I'm thinking about as I'm watching this, the piece on Billy Graham was the appearances that Billy Graham had on my radio show, The Wrestling Insiders.
That's right.
And how certainly, I would say 10 years, 11 years can certainly make a difference, in a person in the way that they look at Vince McMahon when it comes to needing Vince now, possibly to promote a book project or whatever direction you're going. But it definitely crossed my mind, I must admit, while I was watching the Confidential show.
And in both ways, and Vince McMahon with Billy Graham.
Oh, of course, but I think we've also seen that Vince has been trying to make amends with a lot of people that in the business that he's been sort of the typecast as being enemies with, Billy and Bruno Sammartino, and I think you can go on and on.
Bret Hart.
And Bret Hart, absolutely.
Yeah, now, who was on the show again last night? Confidential's practically the Bret Hart's Greatest Match show.
Yeah, it seems that way as of late, doesn't it?
We've seen Davey Boy Smith match. We've seen Owen Hart match. The Hennig match was just, 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, except it's not, because I'm sure it's the, obviously, they want Bret Hart in Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 20. I don't think there's anyone doesn't doubt that. And then, Bret Hart wants to say goodbye, and I don't know, they just got to be careful not to do something stupid between now and then to insult him, which they may do it.
I don't know if you can get odds on that at thegreek.com.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
You know that that situation is so volatile, and
they can't help themselves.
No.
Impossible
for them to. The way that the negative comments that they have on Canadian fans in general.
That was some of the stupidest TV that they did was that show in Montreal. Yeah, the Shawn Michaels interview with Chris Jericho. It was just so counterproductive. I don't know if you saw the thing in the Observer. I don't know, it was a week or two ago, but the attendance in Canada is like way down as compared to the United States, and if you look back at other down periods, Canada always held up better than the United States.
Absolutely, that was always that one strong market that you could rely on. That the whole country actually, but certainly the Toronto market. And
yeah,
boy, it's when you see that one eroding, that really tells a story.
Yeah. Anyway, we are going to go to Patrick in Kingston, Oregon. Patrick, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you doing?
Doing really good.
How's it going, TENAY?
Patrick, doing just fine. How's everything in Oregon tonight?
It's Ontario.
Not Oregon, Ontario.
Oh, Ontario.
Yeah, near Toronto.
No, yeah, near Toronto and Ottawa. So, anyways, I've got a question for you, Mike, today.
Go right ahead.
With Tajiri's mist, how is that so possible to get it in his mouth and keep it in his mouth, even though he's getting bashed in the face or something like that, getting kicked in the face, and keep it in until he spits it out? What is it made of?
Well, I don't know specifically what Tajiri uses. Dave may be able to tell us, but I know that in the past, managers have passed the mist to them. Referees have passed the mist. They possibly have it on their person someplace.
Sometimes in their trunks.
Yeah, in the trunks.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you exactly in his case. Dave, do you know specifically?
I would assume that he has it on him because, like with Great Muta, it was always Gary Hart passing it to him.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the type of material? Was it like Kool-Aid or something like that?
Food coloring or something?
I think like a food coloring, almost like in a balloon type thing that he's able to bite into.
Oh, okay, because a lot of people are arguing and saying it's Kool-Aid. Just stuff it in your mouth and put the water in it and just shake it up and it's...
Well, why don't you try and see if it works?
I don't want to make a mess all over the house.
Hey, I've heard of announcers blading themselves when they were kids. Not me, by the way. Making a mess in the house.
Anyways, I want to say, Mike, today you're doing a good job of NWA TNA. You're a god of NWA TNA. Same with Don West. And I want to say... I'm so glad that NWA TNA is in existence. And tell Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett they're doing a great job with the company, and kudos to them. They're doing a lot better job than the WWE, I tell you.
Well, Patrick, thank you very much for those remarks, and I think it's imperative for the health of the wrestling business that NWA TNA stays alive.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, there needs to be just alternatives just for the good of everyone.
Yeah, alternatives are the better. It's the fruit of life, I tell you that. Yeah. Anyways, you guys take it easy and keep on doing the good job, Dave Meltzer, and have a nice day.
Okay, thanks very much, Patrick. We are going to go to Craig in South Bend, Indiana. Craig, what's going on?
Not much. Just wondering a couple things. First, which being, what is the injury status as in the neck of Kurt Angle, as well as some other injuries I've been hearing of, like his hamstring and his shoulder?
He's all banged up, but I think that Kurt Angle is a guy who's going to be all banged up for the rest of his life, and is so mentally tough that he won't care. He should, he needs hamstring surgery, and he's going to go out and do a 60-minute match. So,
what does that tell you?
What does that tell you? Hey, he tells the story about winning a gold medal on a broken neck, which is a true story. But what he doesn't say is that at the, I believe it was the U.S. Olympic team trials, it was like a 2-day thing, and he broke his neck on the first day, and he came back on the second day, the day after breaking his neck, and had to wrestle. I don't remember the name of the wrestler. I could look it up. But it was someone like a Kerry McCoy or a Danny Chade. It wasn't like some easy match. It was a world-class wrestler, and beat him the day after breaking his neck just to make it to being national champion. And then he still had to come back, whatever it was, weeks later, and defended in 2 out of 3 with Danny Chade again. I try to remember there was Danny Chade there. So he's not a normal human being, and he's always going to be hurt. He says his neck is not hurt, but if it was, I don't know that he would let on. So he's just a tough guy.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. He seems like he's Ric Flair. I mean, with Ric Flair had the plane crash, and Angle has his neck, so it's.
Everyone in wrestling though lives with that stuff, though. I mean, and he, Kurt Angle's, very special, and is will probably can take more pain than almost anyone, but everyone in wrestling to a degree is banged up. I mean, it's just if you're working 4 nights a week, it's just going to happen. But Angle, Angle's got many injuries that he should be taking time off for, and that he won't, and it will shorten his career at the end, and that's just how it's going to be.
And I think when it comes to injuries, one of the things that people don't take into account is that for the most part, unless a wrestler takes that time and shuts down, there is no off season. It was amusing. I was listening to a Sports Talk radio interview with a baseball player the other day, and how he was saying that the first day of spring training is really the only time that you're 100% physically. And I was thinking the lack of contact to a baseball player as opposed to a wrestler, and the fact that baseball player has maybe 5 months off.
Yeah.
During the off season where a wrestler really has no downtime. Yet they're playing in pain, no question.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it. I just want to say, love TNA, love it as an alternative. I've been watching wrestling for over 20 years now. I'm at this point, really sick of what's going on Raw and the booking of SmackDown, and I'm glad to see that there's a fresh alternative out there that has hot matches every week and decent booking from week to week, and doesn't have anything with necrophilia and rape. So good.
Well, that gets a little bit out of control, and I don't know why they do that.
I don't know why either, but thank God there's TNA, and you're doing a great job today, and to everyone else, everyone else there is doing an awesome job as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Keep watching.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Okay, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. You can join us, by the way, at 1-800-878-PLAY, and you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Mike TENAY, announcer for NWA TNA. And we also have Jeremy Wall, who we're going to get to in just a second, but I just want to get to George in Chicago. George, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, what's going on tonight?
Not too much.
Professor Mike TENAY, how are you doing?
George doing just fine in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada.
I'm in Chicago, so, I was just calling.
Bears had a bad day.
Oh, God, that's exactly why I said I'm in Chicago and stopped right there. Oh, my God.
You've still got the Cubs.
Well, yeah, at least the Cubs are doing all right this season. They're doing really good. I guess I just wanted to call, first of all, and say that I watch TNA every week. I don't miss it at all. And to me, nowadays, the WWE is really my alternative to TNA, because you have TNA, which is good, and it makes sense, and the thing that is different between the NWA and, what I like to call the McMahon-O show, because it's like the Sopranos with the McMahons, and and everybody works around them, and it's not about the title. It's not about everybody, D'Lo, Frankie Kazarian, Chris Sabin. It's not about everybody wanting the belt and wanting to do whatever's necessary to get to that. And I just kind of, I guess I wanted to ask you, is it really difficult to deal with the wrestling personalities in the back? I mean, when it comes to who's gonna have the title and who's not gonna have the title? Because, like you said earlier in the show, after watching that X Cup, as well as watching the Ultimate X match, nobody, even losing, came out looking at. Everybody came out like Teddy Hart losing to Hoovy. He had nothing to feel bad about, nothing at all, because he came out looking good.
Well, George, first off, thanks very much for the compliments on the show and in general. And I think in particular, because we have, especially when it comes to the X Division, that younger group of wrestlers that I don't see or I don't sense the political repercussions pertaining to who has the championship belt maybe nearly as strongly as I have in the past when it comes to older veteran wrestlers. I think so much of our group is thrilled to be a part of a national TV promotion, thrilled to be having that opportunity to be seen, and thrilled to have a chance to go out there and put on the kind of matches that you see with the X Division matches almost on a regular basis here. I think our shows the last 1 month plus have been as strong a run as we've had in the 1 year that we've been in existence. And long-term key to our success is to keep that kind of momentum going, keep the emphasis on the championships, keep the booking emphasis, and taking those X Division matches and elevating them, making them as high profile as you can. And I think it's just by everyone in the whole company putting that kind of importance on those matches and really on the NWA World's title and the tag title matches. We've had some great ones with America's Most Wanted and Diamond and Swinger in the last month. I think that really is the key to the success for the company.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching AJ Styles, America's Most Wanted, all of them. I mean, it's to the point where many of my friends are very tired with the booking of Raw and SmackDown, and I always take TNA, and that is refreshing, and that is not, it's not sports entertainment, it's wrestling, and that's what, someone who's followed the sport, I think, and it just, an intellectual wrestling fan wants to see. So the two guys just leave it in the ring. It's very, very simple. But I feel like versus your show, versus the WWF, every time I watch it, or WWE, I feel like my intelligence is insulted. Like Dave said earlier, they don't feel it's necessary to explain what they're doing or flesh it out. Like AJ Styles, I didn't know who he was before I started watching TNA. AJ Styles is the man. Anybody who hasn't seen AJ Styles wrestle, you're missing out. Anybody who hasn't seen any of the TNA stars wrestle, you're missing out, really, very much so.
Boy, I think George just did the best promo possible for the
God, we need Don West. He's better than Don West.
We're going to bring George in and do the hard sell for the review this Wednesday. You're right. I mean, if you think about the positive critical acclaim that we've had, a lot of the X Division matches, several of the NWA World's title matches, I think back to the Jeff Jarrett-Raven feud, a lot of the NWA World's tag title matches that involved America's Most Wanted, Harrison Storm, the matches now with Diamond and Swinger, the first steel cage match with Triple X. And this Wednesday, for 1 cent, you'll be able to see what George is talking about, what a lot of the wrestling journalists like Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez have been positive about as well.
Positive lately.
Lately, absolutely.
Yeah, but the matches they're going to be showing, like Triple X and America's Most Wanted, I mean, you really should see that match. I mean, everyone should see it. It is that good. It's one of the, again, that's another one, like the matches last week, that's one of the better matches you'll see all year.
And also that Ultimate X match with Sabin, Kazarian, and Shane from a couple weeks back.
That was an excellent match, too.
The Raven Jarrett, which I think you called the most important match in the history of our company, especially when it comes to the bottom line. It was the highest buy rate.
Yeah. Best built up.
There's going to be a video package on the X Division. So I think it's all a case where if you haven't been watching the shows, I'm not going to say you're going to get brought up to date in one night, but as close as can possibly be.
Yeah.
I think that the people should also know that the people like D'Lo and Raven that weren't used, the right way, correctly. Raven is mad. I love it when he puts the microphone in his hand. Every time they go to an interview with him, I just stop and just listen because it's magic coming out of his mouth. And D'Lo too, you can see it. You can see the hungriness in his eyes now, whereas he's not in a place where the glass ceiling is going to hold him down, where he can, actually work. Mad Mikey too, that's what I wanted to call you about. I forgot about that. Mad Mikey, I love that gimmick. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Anybody who hasn't seen Mad Mikey, you got to check him out.
A little bit of something for everybody, which I think if you look back to the WCW days when we had our best success, it was because the show and the card was slotted with something for everybody on that show, and I think that's even Mad Mikey in the comedy match the other night. It was early in the show.
It was 1 minute match. It was fine.
It was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
It served, it served its purpose. It served its refresher purpose, and it's something that the common person can relate to. That's why it hit me, because riding in traffic, whatever, being upset, that you can relate to that. So every time I see him, I'm gonna take a personal investment in him, just like everybody else in the TNA. That's just one example. I can take a personal investment in many of the people there because you're giving it the time to flesh out, and the matches pay off. You give the storylines the time to build up, and you give the ring time for the matches, and the importance of having Jeremy Borash hold up the world title and announce the competitors. Things like that are important. They don't do that in other.
George, we got to get running, okay?
Yeah, I'm not going to hold up your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome. I want to go to Jeremy Wall. Jeremy.
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing, Jeremy?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
We're doing really good. I guess Jeremy, this is first. I want to introduce you to Mike TENAY, who's on the air.
Jeremy, how are you? I've read a lot of the stories that you've written for WrestlingObserver.com.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And you want to talk about you're trying to do a Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
Yes, that's right. It's basically based off what you're doing with the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. It's a few differences. All it's for is for mixed martial artists who have competed since 1993, like since September 1993, with the Pain Craze and UFC and Pride and all those top organizations. That's mainly what it is, and there's not much differences between that and the Observer Hall of Fame and the way it's done. I know last week you mentioned that there was the difference between your 60% rule of guys who have to get over 60% of the vote to get in, as compared to my rule, which is 51%. And I think with that, the reason I went with that is because with pro wrestling, you've got 150 years plus of pro wrestling history and of guys that have done that, right? And I think with that, there are more guys in the gray area of whether or not they maybe deserve to be in the Wrestling Observer Hall and maybe not. And I think with only 10 years of mixed martial arts history, I think there's less guys in the gray area. And I think 51% encourages more guys to get in. And I think it makes it more interesting. And I think in the future, if I had a 60% rule, I don't think there'd be any guys getting in with if there were just a balanced gray area guys without shoe-ins like Ken Shamrock or Hoist Gracie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's going to be interesting, and down the line it'll be interesting when more and more fighters turn around. The one thing about professional wrestling historically, as compared to mixed martial arts, and I think as it's to evolve, and time will tell if this is correct, is that professional wrestling always had even though there were always a million world titles, it always had the major world title, and most of the top guys fought for it at some point in their career. Maybe there were two major world titles that they both fought for. I think with mixed martial arts, you're going to have your big organization, but I don't know, the longevity thing isn't going to be there, and the title isn't going to be quite the measuring stick of the top guy, even though in theory it would be more of one in a shoot sport, but I don't think it's going to be as much because, you don't get as many title matches, and I don't know, there's going to be great fighters that never hold that major world title, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And I think with pro wrestling, like for the Observer Hall of Fame, you've got a lot of guys like Lou Thesz and Ric Flair and those kind of guys that are real shoo-ins to be in the Hall of Fame. Like those guys are Hall of Fame caliber. Whereas with MMA, you've only got 2 or 3 guys that are like absolute 100%. Like that, like Hoist Gracie, I wouldn't be surprised if we got 100% of the vote. Like just an absolute shoo-in.
Well, you have to because he's the pioneer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And they're like someone like Ken Shamrock or Randy Couture or Kazushi Sakuraba. Those guys are like just shoo-ins, and I don't think there's as many shoo-ins in MMA as there would be in pro wrestling. Just
because it's only been 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why I think with 51%, it encourages more guys who would, that are on the cliff of whether or not to get in, would get in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. 51% is interesting because, when I started with the Observer thing, I thought 70 was just a gut number, and it's never changed. With 70, I thought it was going to be too difficult because, and actually 60's been a lot more difficult than I would have expected. First year that Shawn Michaels was eligible, Mick Foley, I thought, Muto, I thought they were all going to make it, and then, it took several years for all of them. So, 60's a tough standard. There's a lot of guys who would have made 50 that didn't, and I don't think any of them would have been bad to have made it, but I don't know. 60 seems so far to be a good number, though. It creates a lot of controversy, if nothing else.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to come back with Jeremy and Mike right after this. You listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're here with Jeremy Wall of A Touch of Evil, who also writes for our website, and Mike TENAY, of course, the voice of NWA TNA. And Jeremy, I wanted to ask you something because you sent me this a letter the other day. And tell Mike this story about it was Les Carpenter, the writer for the Seattle Times. This is like one of the great media stories of the week, and there have been plenty of them in the last 2 weeks. But this one's a really good one.
Okay, this guy Les Carpenter writes for the Seattle Times website. Does an article about the Bob Sapp-Tyson fight. Now, of course, he favors Sapp because he lives in Seattle, and that's where Sapp's from. Now, he does this write-up where he says K1 is like, no holds barred, and it's a blood brawl, or whatever it is that he said. And he also said that Sapp earlier this year was knocked out by a kick from a Polish kickboxer. Okay, that's all well and good. He got his facts wrong. That's pretty stupid. That's pretty shoddy journalism. I go back. I'm doing research on the recent crappy articles that have been written about K1. And I went back to read his article, and I noticed that he made the correction that Mirko Krokop was a Croatian kickboxer that knocked Sapp out with a fist, but he did not bother to correct what he said about K1 being a no-holds-barred, which I sent him the rule book to K1, a link to it on
He sent him the rule book.
Is that amazing?
And make the correction. But, I mean, the thing is that, like, he corrected his article in the sense, but he didn't correct the main part of the article. He just corrected the fact that, he got the guy's nationality and the knockout blow wrong, but the gist of the article, when he found out he was wrong, he just let it go.
Just seems to be another example of what we've seen in the last couple of years when it comes to that journalism pertaining to mixed martial arts and journalism in general, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think journalism, but I mean, it's like with Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon on Pardon the Interruption. I mean, they hate that they get all these negative emails whenever they bring up the subject.